Joan, Pascal, and Wayne Newton, Joan, Jonathan, and a bench, Kickball, Charles L., and Quaker Oats oatmeal. You are watching Reader Seeks Romance Channel's Romance Recap, and we're discussing and dissecting The Golden Bachelorette, Season 1, Week 3, starring widow Joan Vassos. I am Liz Donatelli.
And I'm Tiffany Current.
Be sure to subscribe to Reader Seeks Romance Channel so that you don't miss weekly episodes of Romance Recap only on YouTube. Week 3, what are your thoughts?
I think my thoughts are this episode is sponsored by Quaker Oats. You totally stole my thunder. I was like, they're like big pushing that, like eating it, talking about it. I love to eat it. I thought that was very funny.
I thought it was hilarious, especially because they figure older adults eat oatmeal. I
Yes,
guess
that's
that's
true.
kind of I think it's kind of a stereotype.
I
I
think it is
think
a stereotype. Yes, but it worked. It was appropriate. I was like, okay, sure. I
I
like
thought it
Quaker
was
Oats.
hilarious. It was hilarious that Charles L. is sitting there on the bench on the field, the kickball field, happily
I
eating
can't.
oatmeal. And you know they
I
probably like
can't.
kind of forced it on him, but
Yeah.
he was game.
He was like, what an experience. I get to date this beautiful woman. I get to play kickball for the first time and I get to eat oatmeal.
Yeah.
That's the commercial, folks. But moving past oatmeal, I really like this episode. I cried a lot. I'm looking forward to discussing with you.
Yeah, wow, the tears just keep coming.
I know, it's crazy.
By the end of this episode, we are down to 11 contestants.
I'm
So,
very happy about that. I think it's great.
did that happen quicker than usual?
No, that's for the Golden Bachelor, Bachelorette. I think they cut it down faster and I like it.
Okay, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
do too, but I'm excited because I love to see progress with
Yeah.
things like the Bachelorette with Jen Tran and other bachelorettes, right? It seems like there's always so many, even when they get rid of people, and there's like you just feel like you're stuck. But this, I feel like we're progressing nicely, you know?
We're moving along nicely. We're finally get to see more people and like so let's just dive in. I will say
Yeah.
we start off at the mansion. People are exhausted, they're tired, they're sleeping, they're snoring. And we get a little bit of Pascal once again, who's just like, I do not cook, I do not clean, he doesn't do anything apparently. And I'm here for it. I am here for it. I enjoy him.
I don't like to cook. I don't like to clean. I don't like to do laundry.
That is fine if Pascal was committed to being a lifelong bachelor who just outsources all domestic duties. But after all, like he's going to be part of a partnership. Like, what's he going to do? He's like, oh, you do everything and I just do the fun stuff for us, you know?
No, he seems like the type to hire out. He will say like, "We will hire out. We will go out." I trust that he will hire out. That's what I think will happen.
Well, I don't know if Joan is all about that type of luxurious lifestyle. I mean, it's possible. I thought it was interesting that Jonathan coined the phrase gazers and grazers
Yeah, that was cute. That was
for
cute.
people who just watch other people make the food and they swoop in and
Pascal.
just eat it. Yeah, meaning
Yes.
Pascal.
There are some guys that are just like gazers and grazers. They just want to watch and then they want to eat. That's all they do.
Let me tell you something. Greg might have a crush on Pascal because I can't believe there's any platonic guy pal who would do everything Pascal wants. Like Pascal apparently kicked him out of the room.
He
Greg
was
can't
okay
even
with
sleep in
it.
the room.
I know he
And
was
Greg
okay
does the
with it.
laundry. So I feel like maybe Greg has a serious crush on Pascal.
I think that's on the Golden Bachelorette After Dark, and we'll have to just wait for that footage. So we have to wait for it. But speaking of Pascal, he got picked for the one-on-one date. I was very shocked by
Me
that.
too.
He was shocked by it, and he actually seemed genuinely touched. He's like, "I'm touched, I'm shocked," and I was like, "Good for him. That's very nice." He seemed more emotional as we went on.
You know, at first I was a little like, I don't know about picking Pascal for this one-on-one. I felt like it was kind of a waste because I, like perhaps many others, are just
Yes,
judging him by what he has said.
yes,
Um,
I agree. I
and I
agree.
figured, oh, he's not a serious competitor. He's not. But I feel like we did get, some real heart-to-heart talk with Pascal.
We did. Also, before we got to the heart to heart, it starts with, of course, Joan driving up in this red sports car. He's super excited because he's like, I drive fast. And she's like, well, I'm driving. So I hope you're a good passenger.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to see them in the car. She was having fun. He was having fun. He was throwing his hands up. And she even admitted, she's like, I picked him because he seems like fun. And he is fun. He was a lot of fun on the car ride. And then they go and they get on a private jet, Liz, a private
Yes.
jet.
To Vegas, which I think if you're going to pick any of those men to go to Vegas, you want to pick Pascal.
Absolutely.
I thought it was hilarious because Pascal, when he sees the private plane, is so excited and so grateful. He keeps thanking
Yes.
Joan. He reminded me of little orphan
Yes.
Annie after Daddy Warbucks
Oh.
adopted her, right? He was like that level of like giddy, almost childlike
Oh my goodness.
awe and
Yes.
gratitude. And I think that that kind of connects again later to the heart to heart that he has with Joan. But man, I was just tickled pink
Yes.
for Pascal. He was so excited.
What I liked, as you pointed out, he was so grateful. He's like, I'm used to the finer things, but he still was very grateful. And he kept reiterating, it's not just about the finer things, it's about the company. And he kept
Yeah.
pointing out the company is what's important.
Right.
And they kept doing little kisses. And of course, they have to go to the Parisian hotel in Vegas. You have to if you're with like a Frenchman.
Yeah.
And for some reason they get to a room that has a piano player and a lot of costume changes.
Yes, it was a fashion show
It was.
of sorts, while Joan and Pascal searched through all of these very glitzy, glamorous outfits to choose what they were going to wear that evening.
Yes.
And my takeaway from that is, wow, the abs on Pascal, like the
Okay, can we
body,
just
the
talk about
physique
that?
for a
When he had his
69-year-old.
shirt open, I was like, you clearly go to the gym. You look very good. I was very impressed.
Joan says, because he puts on this, like, I don't know, sequined jacket with nothing on. She's like, oh, you look like a dancer. And he does like a little bit
Yeah.
of a mock strip tease.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, what a body on you, man.
He had a fantastic body. And what I love about this moment is usually it's the woman that's like dressing up, and she was, but he's like, I feel like Julia Roberts. And I was like, oh my God, he was the woman in this scenario. He was Julia Roberts. She was Richard Gere.
Yes.
Super cute.
He
Super
was the
cute.
star. He was the
He was
star
the
of this
star.
date. I mean, this was all for him.
We are going to pick up the outfit for the night, and I feel like I'm the pretty woman, and I'm Julia Roberts.
He seemed to really appreciate it. And then at some point, I don't know, I just like how playful they were being, and they were just kissing and etc. It was very cute to me.
After picking their outfits,
Yes.
then they get a surprise, a knock on the door in this suite.
Okay. I thought it was Jesse. I was like, why is Jesse showing up?
Oh, did you?
Biggest shock. I was not expecting it. Who was it, Liz? Who was it?
Wayne Newton, who I seriously thought had passed away. So at first I was like, is he back from the dead?
I don't know, but his teeth were glowing like a ghost. His teeth were so freaking white. I wrote down when he walked in, I put Wayne Newton. I was like, Wayne Newton. I was like, Wayne, when I saw it. First of all, honestly, I thought he's better than this. He doesn't need to be on the show. He's Wayne Newton. He does not need to be on the show.
Oh, he's a fame whore. Yeah, no, he is Wayne Newton. First of all, he doesn't even present as a real person. He seems almost like a robot, an entertainment robot. It was funny because when he sings a song. I think he sings Donkashane.
Yes,
which
that's
is
correct.
his classic hit. But
Yes.
he's like whisper singing it.
Yes. Well, he's an older man. He's an older man.
And then it's like the music on the show is like louder because I guess they're trying to drown it out. But Pascal and Joan are dancing. So it's a very
sweet.
like romantic moment. But I don't know. Wayne Newton gives me the heebie-jeebies.
It was strange. What I liked about that is at some point, Pascal does a serious dip. He really dips Joan. I was like, well, be careful. Don't drop her. I just like seeing how much joy he had experiencing this moment with her. It was really lovely. It was really nice.
He has so much genuine joy.
Yes.
And a positive attitude that I do wonder, does Pascal harbor a deep dark side? I don't know.
Oh my God.
Do you
No,
think
but I think
he is in behind closed doors? Do you think he's all light and joy, or do you think he's maybe aloof? Perhaps
don't
not
think
attentive.
so.
Like, I don't know. What do you think?
I think they were showing us all the high maintenance stuff in the clips, but we get to see that there's a deeper part to him. And later on, we can dive
Yeah.
into that now if you want.
Yeah.
They go on the date at nighttime, and we learn the deep side of Pascal, and that explains why he's so grateful.
Yes. Pascal grew up very poor with parents who were not particularly loving or supportive. I don't know the circumstances of them deciding to move to the United States, but they did at some point. And Pascal, was new to the language, to the culture, to the customs, and would just give himself pep talks in the mirror because
Yeah.
he vowed to make something of himself. Joan revealed at this point that she is a woman of STEM and that she's a coder.
Why has this not been at the forefront of this? She's like, I went to college
Yeah.
I think she said for coding, and then I wrote code before I married my husband. I was like, whoa, no one mentioned this. I would have
Yeah.
liked to hear about it, but what I liked is he asked her. She was telling her stories like, well, what did you study? He's
Yeah.
trying to get to know her and all the details. So I did appreciate him asking her questions. It was very sweet.
I did too. And I think this really connects to something Joan says later on is that she at heart is a nurturer and she's there to
Yeah.
take care of everybody always. She thinks of herself last. So to be honest, every date she's had, she barely says anything really about herself that is
That's
new,
true.
new for us to learn.
That's true.
So I'm hoping moving forward, she's opened up and she's learned that it is good for her to share a lot of what she's thinking and about who she is, who she was. It was interesting to learn that. Joan does tell the camera that, Pascal is not superficial, which is funny because we keep getting shown clips showing he is, but she's like, no, he really isn't.
It was nice to see. I believe it. We see he has particular taste. He likes fancy things, but at heart, he's a person who grew up with not that much stuff. So he likes, now that he's made his money and he's made his own business, he wants to treat himself because he never had that. So I understand now the psychology behind it. It makes sense. It totally makes sense.
It makes sense. I can appreciate it and accept it. And now, even though I don't believe he's going to make it to hometowns,
I
I
agree.
do think that he can make someone a partner. Although,
you heard it here, folks. Pascal can officially date someone. Liz said it. It's going to happen.
Based on this particular date,
Stamp
it
of
gives me
approval.
hope that he can, but I still have a little bit of a question. So Pascal gets a rose from Joan.
Yes.
And they kiss, and I'd like to talk about this kiss.
Okay, so they kiss in front of the Eiffel Tower. And while they're kissing, at the end of it, he says, that was a French kiss. And she's like, I know. I know it was. But more importantly, I thought it was kind of aggressive because he held the back of her head. Did you notice that? I thought it was a touch aggressive.
Interesting that you interpreted it as such. So I wrote down Pascal holds the back of her head in a nurturing, lightly possessive way. I dig it.
Whoa,
I
okay.
can totally get why you said aggressive, but see, aggressive would have been if I felt he was really using force, but it felt like it looked like he was just holding the back of her head solidly and firmly, which to me was almost like I want to
eat your face off.
A plate.
Yeah.
My plate.
He was definitely teaching her about French cuisine during that kiss. He went in there and was taking her to dinner. I thought it was a little much of the head holding because it felt like a strong hold, but maybe it was a nice hold. All I know is she seemed very happy with the date. I was very happy with the date. I thought it was very cute. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, there's been a lot of stuff happening at the Bachelor Mansion.
Are you talking about the impromptu pharmacy run of Charles L. and Gary?
Okay, so obvious. I look, the producers had to give them permission to go, and they had to tape it. I believe this is a real thing. It seemed like randomly out of the blue, we see the two most random characters together showing up in pajamas, and they're like, no one can sleep. We need to fix this. And apparently Charles has a PhD in I don't know, sleep patterns. He's like, we need melatonin, we need earplugs, we need this. They were getting everything in onesies, mind you, because I guess the guys needed more sleep.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was very thoughtful of them.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it was probably producer encouraged.
Absolutely.
I feel like the producers is like, hey, who wants to go to the store and get some stuff for, some sleep aids. Because it did seem it seemed kind of random. I think they probably could have cut that
That
out
was
of the
random.
episode. I'll be honest.
That was random. It was unnecessary. But what was interesting is that later on we see Charles pull a guy aside who's a
Yes.
doctor. I think he's an ER doctor, and he wants
Yes.
to ask him a question about his wife. There's been something sticking with him all these years about what happened when his wife was taken to the ER when she had the aneurysm.
Yeah, I mean, this was so heartbreaking to know that Charles has been holding on to this and ruminating about it. So apparently when Charles's wife had a brain aneurysm, they were out together and she collapsed next to him and there
Yes.
was blood by her mouth. And he's been
Yeah.
just obsessively, it seems like, thinking about like why was there blood? And I also seems to have a little bit of guilt of, was there something I could have done? And
Yes.
Guy was
Charles.
really fantastic. Like
He was great.
I don't like doctors. I don't trust them, and I think that they overall suck. But
Yeah.
I thought Guy was really sweet. I mean, he explained
Yeah.
that it was probably because when she fell, she bit her lip, and that was
Yeah.
that was the blood. And what a relief that Charles felt having an answer to that question. And Guy suggested that he stop dwelling on the why
Yes, I love that. That
and
was
that it's
great.
something he doesn't need to really think on anymore. And wow,
Ugh.
what a weight lifted off of Charles's shoulders. I mean, it was so incredibly touching.
It was very
That's
touching.
yeah.
It was nice to see that he trusted Guy enough to ask him these questions. And Guy, as you said, handled it so well. It was such a nice moment. And he really was just like, I'm trying to help Charles move past this.
Yeah.
And I think we saw that weight off his shoulders as kind of like the rest of the episode kind of progressed.
Yes. So this now leads us to the group date with the following men: Chock, Gil, Dan, Charles L, CK, also known as Charles K, Gregg,
Mhm.
Gary, Guy, Kim, Jordan, Mark, and Keith. Okay. So they're the only ones on this group date. And apparently it's a kickball date. They meet on a football field and even meet with these two former professional football players, Andre
That's
Reed and
correct.
Eric
Yep.
Dickerson, but it's to play kickball, which I guess they figure is less contact than football, so a little bit more manageable for
Yeah.
older adults.
They were worrying about getting sued. So I think that was the right decision. Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
And you see them practicing kicking on the field. And then we go to Jesse, who announces that this is the first ever Golden Kick Bowl
Yes.
sponsored by Quaker Oats Oatmeal.
Sponsored by Quaker Oats. Yes.
That sponsorship is reiterated constantly, which I get because Quaker Oats pays for this, right?
Yeah.
This type of, product placement and sponsorship. So it is mentioned a few times how delicious the oatmeal is and thanking the sponsor. But anyway, at this point, Jesse mentions we've got two teams. The team that wins gets a special after party with Joan. The losing team goes back to the mansion. So we got a blue team and a red team, and Joan and Jesse are kind of the commentators for this game of kickball.
I enjoyed the game, but watching the game, I was very nervous. These are older men kicking and running. At some point, I think Gregg slid to like steal a base, and like these men were like kicking the ball and like, pulling muscles and etc. So it was actually very stressful for me to watch it because I was like, oh, someone's gonna get hurt. Of course, the one who steals the whole competition for me is Charles, once again, who's like, I've never played this game before. How do I play this game? Everything about Charles is so freaking lovely. And the guys are so supportive. Like they're explaining it to him. He goes up, he's like, I guess I just kick it. And I forgot who was throwing it. Was it maybe, I can't remember who was the pitcher, but I think he did a slow ball on purpose. And then Charles hit it. And then I think he ran him into the base. It was such a moving moment. I love Charles.
Yeah, Charles got an RBI. He brought Keith in for a run. Yeah. And he is the sweetest man. Again, I want to fold him, put him in my pocket, and keep him safe for all eternity. I don't want anything bad to ever happen to this man ever again.
Watch the ball. Keep your eye on the ball. I hardly understand the rules of this game. The coach and team members say, Charles, just play. Don't worry about anything.
Everyone was very supportive. I thought that it was a reasonable amount of competition. Like, it didn't get too crazy. A lot of injuries, a lot of scraped knees and hurt bones and all that. And to be honest, I thought the red team was going to win, but
the blue team wins. I was so I wanted them to win. I wanted them to win.
Keith ended up scoring. And keeps in. Wow, Charles with an RBI.
Did you see the ball I kicked? They didn't catch it. And I'm thrilled, with our team. You hear the cheers? It's a fantastic year. I'm overwhelmed. I'm so excited.
Blue team takes it. Winning the inaugural Golden Bachelorette Quaker Oats kickball. So stoked. Crowd goes nuts. Drums are banging. Crowd is coming out onto the field. Joan comes in. It's going to be really special to hang out with her tonight.
They got to go off and have a lovely group date with Joan.
Yeah.
And I appreciated all the different like kind of one-on-one conversations that we got with them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was really glad that the blue team won. The blue team consisted of Keith, Charles L., Gary, Jordan, some other people. I don't remember.
Yeah, I
don't
remember everybody else.
But anyway, but I thought that the quality of the one-on-one time in these cocktail parties, after parties, barbecues is so wonderful to watch. Like, she really does get to talk to them. So I really, I loved that she got to talk to Jordan, who we don't really see too much. He asked for a victory kiss. Kim, the retired naval officer,
military person.
He's like, I got hurt and they wanted to, send me to the doctor. But I was like, I got to celebrate with my team. It's like, okay. So he's always looking for reasons to say how selfless and, he is. And, I was like, okay, he's still so intense though. Like, he doesn't really let go.
He's too intense. He's way too intense. Once again, we see her meet with Charles. He says, like, he explains once again, I haven't played before, and he keeps thanking her. Thank you for giving me this experience. Thank you for letting me be here. Then he also shared their story about how he got that resolution about hearing about his wife, and now he feels so much better. And he's just saying, my daughters will be very happy about this, that I'm kind of moving on. It was a really nice moment.
Yeah. I don't think that Charles is going to make it to hometowns, but I really think he's going to leave this show more healed, feeling a little bit more whole than he was going into it. And that's all I can hope for him. Gary, I really think after the one-on-one, after this game, Gary is so in the friend zone.
Look, he's in the friend zone, but can I just say, so we find out during this point that Joan's mom is sick, and so she's starting to feel it. She's worried about her. Yeah. And she shares with Gary, and right away Gary says, what's your mom's name? I'm going to pray for her. And I was like, this man, and I know they're just friends. I'm totally aware of this. But when he says that, I'm going to pray for her. And then like, I think at some point, like she's crying, Gary's crying. I start crying because I'm like, oh my, he's just such a positive person. He's so sweet. He's so sweet.
Gary is a man of deep faith, which is interesting because I don't recall ever coming across on any reality show someone who was this committed to their faith and was okay with sharing that. So at first when he said, what's her name? I was like, are you gonna give her a call? Like, I thought he was gonna say, let me give her a call and see how she's doing. Like, I was like, where is this going? He's like, oh, I know a person who can, help your mom. The other person on the team is Gil. And I think I always forget to mention Gil because it did come out in the news that he had a restraining order against him.
Potential sketchiness
with a past girlfriend. So they said they were going to cut his time, but they do show him, and he talks about having adopted a daughter and his love for his adopted daughter. And we learn more about Joan. Joan says that her mom, who's ill, grew up in an orphanage.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
And that her dad is from Holland. So what I got out of her talk with Gil was more about Joan, like what we learned about her. Interestingly enough, Joan gives Gil a rose. Because I guess she felt he had opened up a lot to her.
She's allowed to give him a rose. It happened. It is what it is.
Yeah,
I thought it was a very nice group date. But
it
past that,
was.
let's move on to the one-on-one date with Jonathan. Before we get into that, I'll say when Jonathan found out that he was going to get the one-on-one date,
Oh my God,
he
yeah.
starts crying.
Yeah.
And I start crying because he's like, I'm not, I don't want her to get to know me yet because she could kick me off. And like seeing this beautiful man, mind you, be so worried about himself and just literally crying in front of all the guys, just show that he was like lacking some self-worth there. I felt so much for this guy. I felt so much for him. He's so sweet.
Jonathan's tears affect me more than anybody else's tears because his tears come with a
Oh my God.
palpable
I
pain.
know. I can feel the pain. I can feel
Yeah.
it now. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yes.
Yeah. What
Oh.
I thought, I think he is fascinating. He has to be the only
Yes.
person who ever because I'm sure he's not alone in
Yes.
not wanting to do the one-on-one because of fear, but he's the only person to ever that
Yes.
that I saw. He's the first person to really admit that, yeah, I am afraid of a one-on-one. I don't want her to get to know me and then know enough to not like me. So
Yeah.
I would prefer to hide in the group dates.
I know. It's so fascinating.
So the fact that he was
Ugh.
able to recognize that and then verbalize that, he's got tremendous emotional intelligence.
I agree.
So I think he would be a great partner for Joan. I just feel like their lifestyles are too different. He has much younger children that he's actively still in parenting. She is kind of like looking to take the
Just go
next
have
step.
fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed their date and they seemed like they had a connection. Once again, he's wearing an unbuttoned shirt. I think that's his vibe. Like he likes to rock
is.
like the unbuttoned shirt and he looks fantastic in it.
Yep.
He sees Joan and apparently they're going for a horseback ride. And neither one of them knows how to ride a horse.
Joan is even scared of horses because she was bit by one. So obviously
Of course.
producers leaned into that. Although historically, there's always some kind of horseback riding.
Yes, that's very true.
When you saw them on this date, about
Yeah.
ready to go horseback riding, and you see that they're in this like very vacant, like, I don't know, area, did you think that a hot tub was coming later on?
I totally thought that.
Me too.
I'm not gonna lie. When I
Me
saw
too.
him walking up to her, I'm like, we're gonna get the hot tub scene. Didn't happen, by the way.
It
But
didn't.
because it was so open air, I thought it would. And then when they went to the lake later, I thought, okay, well, maybe they're just gonna go in the lake. Didn't happen either. We did not get a Pride and Prejudice moment. It was surprising. I was like, where's the hot tub? Where was it?
I think she said no to that because I did read that Joan was able to make some adjustments to the show. They did not mention specifically the hot tub, but I am almost positive that if this was on Bachelorette, that would have been the lead in to all of a sudden a random hot tub appearing.
Yep, in the middle of nowhere. I was expecting it. I will just say, whenever he goes up to see her for the first time, they hug and she waits for him to kiss her. Like I saw the moment, like she's kind of like in this whole interaction as they kind of go on the date, she's kind of making the first move of the interaction to try to kiss him. I've noticed a lot of touchy-feeliness with him. It's interesting.
They did a lot of hand holding
Yeah.
on the bench. Again, the Bachelor franchise would be nothing without benches. There's
You gotta
always
have
a bench conversation. Jonathan and Joan had a real heart-to-heart on the bench. They were
Yes.
very close
They
together
were very
as they were
close.
talking.
Yes.
You know, they were holding hands. We learn a little bit more about Jonathan's backstory. He's
Mhm.
been divorced for 9 years, and he says his wife woke up one morning, said she wasn't happy and that she wanted a divorce, and that he immediately started packing. During this conversation, we also learned that he is part Native American, which is why he
Yeah.
must have
That
that
explains it. Yeah, makes
tattoo.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, he mentioned that that experience
Yeah.
really did a number on him, that he
Yes.
felt and still feels unworthy.
Man, I gotta tell you, I'm gonna try not to cry in this moment, but when he was talking about pulling out the suitcase, he's like, when I pulled out that suitcase and I had to unzip it, he's like, I started crying. Or when he said that, I was crying because you could still, he carries so much of that with him still,
Yeah.
feeling unworthy. And that explains why he was nervous about this date. He just felt like he wasn't enough. And what I liked about Joan in that moment is that right away she said, "You are enough. I want you to know you're good enough to be here. I wanted to be on this date with you. You are enough. Just know that going forward, no matter what, you're enough." And I really appreciated how she tried to make him feel better there. It was very sweet.
Yes. Yes. She definitely used her wonderful gift of compassion and active listening to validate Jonathan. She listened. She's like, I understand what you're saying, but, and I want you to know that you are worthy, you are good, And she says that to everybody, like all
Yeah.
the guys, she constantly validates them.
It was very sweet. They kissed again, and it was a little bit more of a serious kiss. So I'm starting to see more of the connection between the two. I actually really like them together. I like their energy together. It's very sweet. But on the way back, they keep seeing Hawks, which is, I guess, AKA her husband. And
Yeah.
we see Joan starting to get emotional because everything's hitting her. Like, is she ready to have a relationship? Her mom is sick. She hasn't seen her kids. She's starting to really feel like emotional. And in a moment, we get to see her talk about whether or not she's really ready for love.
The hawk apparently has a special meaning for her. And when her husband died, her children had said, "Oh, I guess they kept seeing hawks flying around." And
Yeah.
her children, Joan's children said, "Oh, that's dad." So I also don't know if her husband John maybe liked hawks as well. Like I'm not sure why they thought that, but I guess just because the hawks were hovering, always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that led us to, as you mentioned, Joan becoming more introspective
Yes.
about things, and recognizing that she's basically been stuffing her emotions.
It's true.
So Joan vows to be vulnerable from here on out. And she's like, tonight at the pre-rose ceremony cocktail party, I'm going to be vulnerable and honest with these men who have been,
Very open,
open
very
with
emotional.
her.
Yeah.
And so she, again, she speaks so beautifully.
I
I
know.
still
She's
wonder
very
if,
well
like,
spoken.
yeah, like she doesn't do any ums unless they, edit it out. So Joan tells the men that, she's honestly not sure if she's 100% ready for love. She
Yeah.
wants love in her life, but part of her heart will always be her late husband John's, and she's just unsure of how much she can give another person, or that she wants to give a romantic partner.
In my life, I am the caregiver. And because you're being so vulnerable and so open, I want to take care of you. But in doing that, I realize that I'm not being really open with you. And I'm not being like my true self and what you deserve to get to know about me. Because this is a two-way street, obviously.
Yes.
So, I'm committed now, starting today, to be the vulnerable person that I need to be for you all. So, I'm going to tell you things because being strong is exhausting and I'm tired.
Yes.
And first thing is, I miss my family.
Yes.
Terribly. And I miss my kids. And my mom is sick right now. And she's 92. So any little illness worries the heck out of me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I have this whole thing in my heart going on. And people keep asking me, are you 100% ready to have love in your life? And I keep saying yes, because I think that's what I'm supposed to say. But I'm not really, to be honest with you. And I don't know if I ever, really will be, because John was a huge part of my life. And I want to say I'll be 100% one day, but I might only ever be 90% or 80% or whatever it is. But that doesn't mean that I don't want love in my life. It just might not. I might always be a part of John in my heart. And I just think you all deserve to know that. And I'm sorry. I don't want to cry.
Oh, no. Wait, no, we understand.
And I think the guys handled it very well. They said that they're very, in a way, proud of her for being open with them, and they appreciated it. And I think it was great that she said that. But what I thought was note is that right after that, Chock pulls her aside. Made me think twice about Chock, because first of all, he did compliment her and said, "This is great that you're able to say this." But he did want to check. He's like, let me check in. Do you still want to be with someone? So he kind of checked in with her to see, like, do you still want to move forward? It was a little of note to me.
Chock's move was less about Joan and more about him.
It was about him. That's correct. Yes, he was being selfish. That's why I was like, I don't know about Chock. That's kind of strange.
Well, when he did that, I said to myself, Tiffany, you liked Chock last week. And I said I had concerns about him. I thought he was
I know.
probably concerned for her, but he only approached her because he wants to know, hey, lady, am I wasting my time? Are you ready to move forward? Because if not, Chock is out.
I think it's less about him wasting his time. I think it's more so he doesn't want to fall for someone who's not ready to have a relationship. And I think that's fair. But it did give me a slight ick factor. I was like, I don't know about that, Chock. I don't know
Yeah.
about that.
It was almost a knee-jerk reaction. As soon as she was
Yeah.
done, he's like, I gotta make sure that everything is still going okay. Like he wanted to make sure she was still in it because he wants to win
Exactly.
it.
He wants to win it. I will say the other guys handled it very well. Charles, once again, he keeps just showing himself. He keeps just putting himself, he shows her a picture of his wife and he says, like, you know what? I'm ready to move on. You know what? If you're going to be behind, I can be in front. If you're going to be in front, I'll be behind. I'll be whatever you need. He's such like an amazing person. I really like Charles' moment. But what made me cry once again is Gary.
Gary.
Oh my God.
Gary wrote a beautiful prayer for
Yes.
Joan's mother.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was so sweet. And he read it. And I got to tell you, Joan started crying. Gary started crying. I was crying again because I'm like, this man took the time out of his day to write her mom a prayer. And then afterwards, she says, you know what? Prayers work. Today, my mom is better. And I thought, oh, Gary.
The power of prayer.
I got to say, at some point during the night, we see a limo pull up. And I was like, it better not be. I'm not in the mood for him. And it was.
We knew it would be Gary Turner because we already saw the teaser.
We saw the teaser. I thought, what a weird moment to bring him in. I didn't want to see him. He goes on to say, like, you know, maybe one of your guys just aren't here. I'm like, Gary, I don't need advice from you. I'm sorry, I don't.
Was Gary shooting his shot? Is that why he was there and saying, oh, the person you're looking for might not be there? And, I don't know if he was trying to subtly shoot his shot.
I don't know. I mean, knowing Gary, it's very possible, but I did not appreciate it. Producers, I did not need to see him. I didn't want to see him when he showed up. I was like, you got to go, folks.
Yeah,
Gotta go.
to be honest, like if he and Teresa Nist, who he married at the end of Golden Bachelor, if they were still together and thriving, I'd say, yeah, bring Gary in for some advice. But this guy doesn't have his shit together.
No.
So,
No.
which is fine. You don't have to. You live life the way you want, Gary. But I don't think it was appropriate to bring him on to give her advice.
It was super weird. I wasn't feeling it. Gary leaves. At some point, we finally get to Kim's song. Kim has been working on this song. He wrote this long ass song. He tried to get the whole group of men to sing it. They're just like, we don't want to sing this song. Gary, I was very surprised by. I was like, I don't want to sing this song. This is your song. You sing it. And Kim's like, Beethoven didn't perform, like, I don't know, Beethoven. He had a whole symphony or something or other. Like Kim was like all about that song, man.
Let me tell you,
it's crazy.
Kim is doubling down on the songs. As we know, if you're singing, you ain't winning. Okay. Nobody ever picks the person who does all the music and the singing. It never works. So he writes this song about the mansion men. Gary and Dan were like, they brought up good points. Like, although I also think they all thought it was cheesy. But Gary and Dan said, this song is from you. Like, we don't want to sing a song that actually you wrote because this is like a passion project of yours. Like, this isn't, like, don't bring us in on this. Like, this is not our thing. And to be honest, they were all very kind. And they didn't seem to talk behind his back, in a bad way. But man, he was because he's so used to running the ship, literally.
I know.
He wanted these guys just to fall in line and just do whatever he wanted. And I'm like, dude, like read the room. Nobody wants to do this song with you. Although later on, he does sing it with Guy. Guy does it. But
Guy did do the song and they finally got to do it. I'm glad he got to have his moment.
We are the Mansion Men, the Golden Season Mansion Men. We're here to win the heart of Joan. We come from everywhere. We still have love we want to share. We're tired of being alone. We have so much to offer. We hope that Joan can see that each little thing we tell her is meant to have her fall in love with me. At that point, everybody points to themselves.
Yes.
All right. We are the Mansion Men, the Golden Season Mansion Men. From us to you, good night.
Oh.
I just don't want to sing a song. And I know there are other men that feel the same way. Everyone appears to be walking on eggshells with Kim because we don't want to do that. Kim, let me say this, man. I think you're a really talented guy, but this is your song to Joan. It's your song.
It's our song.
You've written it, you've created it, you're sharing it with us now. But I can't say this is from me. It's from you.
Yeah, I wrote it. Okay, fine. You know, Beethoven wrote the Fifth Symphony all by himself, but a whole symphony performed it. It would sound like crap if Beethoven tried to do the whole thing himself. He couldn't do it.
Immediately, we move on from there to the rose ceremony.
Yeah, the rose ceremony. So at this point, the men who already have roses, they are Jonathan, Gil, and Pascal. And then Joan gives roses to Guy, Dan, Gary, Jordan, Chock, Charles L, Keith, and Mark, which means Charles K, or CK as they call him, Gregg, and Kim, the song man,
Yes.
have to leave.
I was not surprised by who she kicked off. I'm like, all right, it's appropriate. It seemed right.
I think she's going to kick off Charles L in the next episode.
I think it makes sense. It's about time.
Yeah.
It's probably time.
Because Charles L, as lovely as a man as he is, he's really still far from ready. He's really far from ready to move on.
And that's just not her partner, just like
Yeah.
neither is Gary. So maybe he'll get kicked off too. Can we just talk about, we got a quick preview of next episode.
Yeah.
I was like, Magic Mike again. We just had that on The Bachelorette. We had that on I think on something else right before that. It's just too much Magic Mike. Come on, guys.
It's too much of the strip teases, you know?
Too much.
That's going to be cringe. I thought that Kim's song was cringe. This is going to be cringe just because, like, it doesn't seem to, that type of activity doesn't seem to mesh with most of their personalities.
Or with the vibe of the Golden Bachelorette. Like, let's not have them. That's fine for the Bachelor, the Bachelorette, not the Golden Bachelorette. Come on, guys. Let's keep it slightly above bar, please. That's my prerogative.
Yeah, I mean, they could have come up with something else. The other thing that was interesting is that there's a clip. Now, again, they cut these trailers often to deceive us, but
Yeah.
it looks as if Chock leaves.
I don't think he leaves because they wouldn't have given the whole thing away. So maybe he wants to leave, but he doesn't leave. So I don't
Maybe
think
she
he
gets
leaves.
him back. Maybe she goes and gets him, brings him back.
I think so. I think we're showing him wanting to leave, and then he probably stays because they wouldn't give the whole thing away. That's my opinion.
Yeah, true. And I still agree with you when you said that Mark is going to be kicked off right before hometowns. I
Yep.
really do feel that. Based on who we have left, I think the men who are going to be kicked off, for lack of a better word, I think Charles L is going to leave.
Yep.
I think Jordan.
Yep. That's a fun vibe for sure. Mhm.
I feel like she really connected with, and maybe Gary. She might
Yeah.
get rid of both of the friend zone guys, which would be
She might.
Gary and
I think
Charles
she should
L.
get rid of Guy too. I don't see that working out.
But we haven't seen her with him that much. Actually,
true.
there is a scene that we did not mention earlier on that after that kickball game, the losers went back to the mansion and had massages, and Guy had quite a nice physique.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean Joan's gonna pick him. He did get, he did the whole taking of all of his clothes, but I don't know. I don't see a match between them.
Well,
I don't know.
I feel like he's attractive enough to Joan that,
She might
probably
keep him around.
on,
Yeah.
Although you're right, maybe Guy. At this point, though, Keith has not been, like, Keith was a strong start. And as we know historically, whoever
Yeah.
gets that first impression rose, they hide. They purposely
For
keep,
some reason till the end. Yeah, that's
yes,
true.
keep them away. So I think that next week is probably going to be a Keith one-on-one.
I hope so. I'd like to see if they actually have something in common. I think that would make sense.
Yeah, right. I agree. It'd be interesting if she ends up with Dan, because he's kind of a quiet but yet solid choice for her.
She already kind of had a one-on-one date with him, so I don't know if they're going to do that one-on-one again soon.
Well, it was just like a dinner though, right?
It was a dinner, but that was a lot of time. She hasn't had that much time with Keith.
Yeah.
So I think they'll probably do other one-on-ones is my guess.
Okay. All right.
We'll see.
Well, do you have anything else?
That's it.
Well, that's all we got for you. Tune into Romance Recap next week when we discuss week 4. Stay golden, friends.